2021. Today, we're going to cover immigration reform that's been in the news ongoing now for several weeks. We're also going to do a quick chat around the visa bulletin. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. And make sure that you like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how, and you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Wanted to remind you that today's live stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads and local job postings since 2001. By Path to Canada, the ideal plan B for high skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. And by PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex perm recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. It's been almost a month since I've had an opportunity to go live here on YouTube. I know that the live streams that I do have generally been pretty popular, over the last several months. And this was just an opportunity I had today, this afternoon at 3 p.m. here to jump on and talk about a few things that have been happening that, honestly are just really concerning. And then some things that we've seen that, have an element to it that, I think we need some clarity on. And so, one of the things that I wanted to jump into is starting with a lot of the immigration reform that we've seen here in the news lately. A lot of the talks around the budget reconciliation, the infrastructure, and honestly, just the overall spending plan that's been put in place, and how immigration reform, may or may not be a part of that. And so, it's been really interesting to see how things have kind of played out here over the last several of months. I think, as I alluded to a few weeks ago, this momentum that's been building has been building now for the better part of 2 to 3 years. And for me, when I look at what that means and how it impacts, well over 1 million folks, it's really interesting to see how politics has been at play, how lobbyists and special interest groups have been at play. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is a lot of you are advocating on behalf of yourself, on behalf of your family, and just on behalf of what's right. But I do want to remind everyone that one of the principles of advocacy, and there's a lot of different thoughts on 5 or 6 principles that define advocacy. But one of those principles is not shaming. And so, I think sometimes when we don't get what we want, the reaction is to attack. Um, Granted, as you've heard me talk about, I think term limits would be a big solution for the lack of reform that we've seen in immigration and other topics in general. But my best advice to you is while it's okay to bring attention to our elected officials, shaming them, to me, isn't necessarily the right approach, and I don't think it's going to get you the resolution that you want. I understand we're all upset that, here we are still looking at the same problem, when this time last year we were talking very heavily about S386, the Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants Act, and now here we are, um, really heavily involved in, the Eagle Act, and hoping upon hope that we see the text and sponsorship for the Eagle Act come up in the Senate, which we haven't seen yet. We've only seen it introduced in the House of Representatives. And so we'll continue to look for, um, you know, the possibility of the Eagle Act, being text version in the Senate so that we can get a good feel for what that will look like. But again, there's a right and wrong way to go about this. Of course, I've talked about power in numbers and power in dollar bills. That's really honestly how advocacy is done. And it's done through action, but it's not done through shaming. It's just my 2 cents. I also wanted to mention, as I said, that they started with a Plan A to be included in the budget reconciliation, and it was a pretty broad stroke. If you go back and look at that language, it was some new language that was introduced, provisions. The provisions that were included were a little different than some of the previous texts that we've seen. Of course, that was denied by the Senate parliamentarian, and it sounds like Plan B was put in place. And for Plan B, it sounds like that was also denied. So the question becomes, what was the current Plan C look like? And there's some interesting data out there, that I've seen, and there's some interesting text that I've seen as it relates to this recapturing legislation and the spillover, and what that's going to mean going forward. And I'm really interested to see, if that language is included in the budget reconciliation. What will it look like? Um, but right now, I honestly, I don't feel like immigration as a whole is going to be included, in this Build Back Better bill, or Build Back Better Act, however you want to refer to it. I've been hopeful all along, but as we get closer now, literally 12 days away from November, as we move closer and closer into November, the sense of urgency to get a budget approved so that there is not a government shutdown will increase. And when that pressure increases, you will see, issues like immigration be left out. It's just how it will work, unfortunately. So what we need to continue to do is bring the awareness. You need to continue to make those calls. I'm not saying not to do that. The calls, the emails, the texts, the social media campaigns, the rallies, everything that goes along with that. Power in numbers, right? You've heard me talk about that, for quite some time here on this channel. But as I look into it, as I read the tea leaves, as I get a feel for many of my sources, it more and more, to me, just personal opinion, I don't foresee, immigration in any sense, reform of any sense, whether that is employment based, immigration, reform, or even, the undocumented, childhood arrivals, the DACA. I don't think that any of that is going to come into play. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before. When you make predictions and speak your opinion, and you do that here on YouTube, sometimes you're led to believe things are going to happen, and then they don't, or if they do, it's well after the fact. But just to kind of recap really quickly on what is and is not going on. It appears like we're into probably a fourth shot here at immigration reform being included in the budget reconciliation to Build Back Better. And again, I think as we move in closer towards the end of the year, the likelihood of it being included, as the possibility of a government shutdown looms, ultimately, I think you'll see that pressure, as it surrounds immigration reform and what it looks like. We'll move more towards the standalone. And again, in a standalone form, that's where we go back to the Eagle Act, and will we see some sort of legislation be introduced in the Senate, sometime, hopefully by the end of the year. I don't know if that's going to happen, and it will require bipartisan support. And when you look at what bipartisan support is right now, and the number of Republicans that are willing to, address immigration as a whole right now, it's those numbers are fairly small, particularly in the Senate. So, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments if you're still hopeful that that we may see some sort of inclusion of immigration reform in the Build Back Better Act, Budget Reconciliation Act. If you have questions, of course, feel free to leave those in the chat. We'll get to those at the end here. Um, Good opportunity for me to ask you again, if you haven't already, to please like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Again, if you have questions or comments, leave those in the chat. We'll get to those towards the end of the discussion here. I want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity. If you're looking for ways that you can support the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, you can do so through the live stream function, the super chat function within YouTube through the live stream, or if you're watching this at a later time, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy if you're looking for ways to contribute and support this platform. Any contributions are reinvested into the technology. I'm working on a couple of new lighting things and some new setup stuff that I'll be working on, hopefully between now and the end of the year, to continue to improve the quality of this content here that's solely produced by me. Everything that you've seen or read on the h1bguy.com or here on the H1B Guy channel has been done by myself and myself alone. And ultimately, your support is what allows me to keep doing this. So thank you so much for your continued support, and all of you who have taken time here to jump into this live stream today. I really appreciate it. I wanted to move into a little bit more of a controversial topic today. Of course, last Thursday, the visa bulletin for November was released on October the 14th, 2021. On Saturday, I was able to publish the H1B Guy grades, November 2021 visa bulletin predictions versus the actual bulletin released. And there was some pretty significant movement on both sides of the spectrum. We continue to see forward movement in EB2 category, final action dates for India as well as China. We saw forward movement in both of those categories. If you go back, 91 days forward movement for EB2 India final action. And then when you look at China for EB2 final action, 137 days forward movement. Going down to dates of filing, which typically the beginning of the fiscal year we don't see a lot of movement in the dates of filing, but now we've seen that consecutive months here for India EB2 moved 183 days forward. I haven't checked on USCIS's website to see if they're still accepting dates of filing, but if they are, we're talking about now January 8th, 2013. That's pretty significant movement. If you look at where they were, the numbers, meaning the dates for October of 2020 and November of 2020, those dates, we've seen a lot of movement for dates of filing and EB2. Then, of course, China dates of filing moving 122 days forward all the way up to February 1st, 2019. But the biggest, I think, disappointment came, and we've been forewarned about it. I honestly thought that this was going to happen in December. A lot of speculation around November, but I just felt like that this retrogression that we saw, we'd see it in December. So I missed it by a month, of course. But if you look at final action dates for India and EB3, 717 days. That's almost 2 full years of retrogression. And you look at January 15th, 2012, and the interesting thing is we saw some pretty extensive movement in the back half of last year. Moving on to China, EB2 final action days, we saw 292 days of retrogression. That's almost a full year. So again, I think there's a lot of factors at play here. Of course, the inability of USCIS to process the amount of cases that were allotted annually. A lot of folks have pointed to the amount of downgrades potentially having an impact. But when you look at dates of filing, I think, which is the biggest tell, because that's where the Department of State thinks that final action dates will be anywhere between 6 to 12 months. It's pretty vague, but at a minimum 6, at a maximum 12. You had 717 days of retrogression for India EB3 all the way back to January 22nd, 2012. If you move down to China, dates of filing China EB3, 456 days of retrogression all the way back to April 1st, 2018. So I think the interesting thing here is that we saw a lot of momentum, right? You saw a lot of advancement of the dates. If you go back to the processing that happened in Q4 fiscal year 2020, 2021, this past summer, you saw USCIS make a real concerted effort to process as many cases as they had. But again, we still saw a significant shortage and wastage, really. But when we look at what are those factors and some of the questions I think that need to be asked, and that is, you know, from the Department of State's perspective, from the analytics around it, they have the holistic view on all the data. If you knew that the allotted number was not going to be utilized, fully utilized, you knew that there was going to be a significant wastage. Why continue to advance the dates? I know it's an effort to maximize number usage, but I think when I look at what happened is it provided some false hope for those that were a little bit further down. And a lot of people have been asking me, about their dates, EB2 and EB3 dates, and what I think on when those dates will be current. And my answer continues to be the same, and that is I still think you're looking at anywhere between 3,800 to 4,000 plus days in wait. So you can take your priority date and add 3,800 somewhere around 4,200 days, depending on if you're EB2 or EB3, and be able to calculate when your final action should be coming up. And I think if you look at why that is, it's a 10 plus year wait. Now the hope is that we'll see some sort of relief reform. Again, I continue to be hopeful that the Eagle Act is going to be the bill that would provide that opportunity, or it's going to take some kind of executive action. If we don't see legislative action taken, it's going to take executive action, and I think very clearly the Biden administration has proved that isn't something that they're interested in doing. So again, breaking it down, looking at what it means from a standpoint of the movement, you had significant movement that's occurred and continued to occur in EB2. And then you have almost 3 years retrogression in EB3 and about a year and a half of retrogression in EB3 for China and almost 3 years of retrogression for EB3 India. So is that the downgrade impact? I don't know if it's necessarily that. I had a bit of a change of tune on the downgrade, where I think when you have the downgrade and it's in parallel, it is the best of both worlds. So I began to do my research and due diligence on that. But again, I think what you're seeing here is that impact of that spillover to EB2 with the amount of EB1s being current. You're seeing that spillover trickle down into China and India. So I'm curious what you all think. I know a lot of you, are sick of the Visa Bulletin, and I know a lot of you continue to keep up with it religiously, to the point that you may be even more of an expert on it than I am. So, with that being said, I just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live, like we have here this afternoon. If you're looking for ways to support the H1B Guy platform here on YouTube, you can do so through the super chat function, or you can also, if you're watching this at a future date or a replay, buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. Earlier in the week, I had an opportunity to connect with some of the folks at the Hidden Dream. I've had members of the Hidden Dream on The H1B Guy channel. If you go back to my friend Sumana, who joined us, that was on the Documented Dreamer series, episode 3. Sumana is one of the founders and works very closely with the Hidden Dream. The Hidden Dream, very similar effort to improve the dream. Of course, they've combined efforts and advocacy here over the last several months. But Shivani had reached out to me, another individual that's associated with the Hidden Dream, and asked if I would mind just reminding everyone that the Hidden Dream Scholarship Fund is still currently open and accepting applications. I tweeted this out, like I said, I think it was Tuesday. But the first award winner of the Hidden Dream Scholarship Fund is my good friend Lakshmi, who was on Documented Dreamers episode 2 as well as episode 5, the Pride of Drexel Dragons. But I wanted to just kind of go over really quickly what the Hidden Dream Scholarship Fund is and who is eligible. And if you have a documented dreamer that is interested or that maybe meets this criteria, I'll put a link in the video description. In fact, I think it's already there. And just so you know, that link is thehiddendream.org/the-hidden dream scholarship. And I'll share this right now in the chat so that everyone can see it while I have an opportunity to go over and read through this. So here's the link for everybody, and I just wanted to remind you what this is. The Hidden Dream Scholarship Fund is a fund aimed at dependent visa high school seniors and undergraduate college students. Currently, dependent visa holders do not qualify for any federal support, financial aid, and once they age out of the system, they have to prove they are on par with international students in terms of funding to even get paperwork to attend school. Often, they also have to have a payout for state tuition, even though that they've lived in the state for many decades. So the applications are currently being accepted through this Friday, October the 22nd. And they're going to be awarding $3,000 scholarships during the fall cycle. So I'm really excited to bring awareness to this great opportunity. If you have a documented dreamer who is a high school senior, or if you have a documented dreamer that's currently in college and looking to receive some additional scholarship funding, you can go to this link that you see right here on your screen, thehiddendream.org/the-hidden-dream-scholarship. So please make sure you take advantage of this great opportunity, and just excited to help my friend Sumana and Shivani promote this excellent opportunity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work our way into the QA here this afternoon. I see a bunch of you have already made your questions and comments. If you have other questions and comments as we go along here, would like to ask you to please leave those in the chat, and I will definitely get to all of them here over the next 15 or 20 minutes. I'm curious if you have comments about your thoughts on the budget reconciliation, the Build Back Better, the possibility of immigration reform being included in the Budget Reconciliation Build Back Better Act. Are you still holding out hope for immigration reform by the end of this year? Or are we now setting our eyes on 2022? I think that we need to continue to bring awareness, continue to voice what we see is wrong and what we feel is right, and that is equality and fairness. And we're going to continue to talk about that. You continue to see the demand on human capital that's out there. Job postings continue to grow while new jobs being added. Payroll continues to grow. The war on human capital is very clearly here and present. So wanted to ask you again, if you haven't, make sure you like this video. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Looking for ways to support the channel here, you can do so through the super chat function. I'm going to move into the comments and questions. And, let me know if you agree or disagree with me here. Hey, Narsima, how you doing? Hey, thank you for the help. You're always very, very informative. I really appreciate that. I try my best to give an honest opinion. I try to have a fact-based, honest opinion. Not everyone agrees with me. Not everyone likes my style. Not everyone likes my matter of factness. But I know that I have a very loyal following, just like you, Narsima, and I really appreciate that. And going to continue to do what I do here, which is do my research, use data and fact driven analytics to talk about why this is a problem and why reform is positive and beneficial, not only for the high skilled immigrants currently in this country, but for our society as a whole. The US has always been, and in my opinion, will always continue to be the number one destination for innovation and technology driven, highly skilled immigrants. And I feel like if there's anything I can do here, it's my own little part in making sure that we talk about why it is important to continue to be that. Hey, Darshan, nice to see you. Thanks for jumping in this afternoon. Does Ming's bill remove entire spillover from EB to FB for 2021 and 2022? The way I read it was 2023. Now, I could be reading it incorrectly. Maybe I'm confusing that with some of the Plan C text that's supposed to be included in the budget reconciliation, the Build Back Better. But I saw where there was spillover that would be allowed to move back and forth between EB and FB. EB being employment based, FB being family based. But I don't think that there was a plan after 2023. I could be wrong in that. If I am, let me know. I'd love to get some clarity on it. It seems to be there's a lot of different aspects of what's going to be recaptured, what isn't going to be recaptured, what's spilled over, what's wasted, how long are they valid for, what can we recapture, even if it goes all the way back to the early 90s. So those numbers are all documented, of course, and there is a possibility that that we could see some sort of legislation that has recapturing as part of the text. But thanks, Darshan. Nice to see you. Really appreciate your support as always. Do you think EB2 is going to keep moving from here on? Hey, Suvi, thank you. Appreciate you jumping in here today. Always appreciate your support. Uh, I think we've seen this trend. It feels like that EB2 is kind of creeping in that 30, 60, 90. Specifically final action dates is what I'm referring to. And so what I mean by that is if we go and break down the dates of filing for India EB2 and China EB2, okay? So dates of filing India EB2 January 8th, 2013, China EB2 February 1st, 2019. So what that tells me then when I go back and look at final action dates, right? And we are at December 1st, 2011. So, from my personal opinion, I think in December we'll be looking at possibly a February or March 2012 final action date for India EB2. Okay. And when you look at China EB2 final action date, November 15th, 2018, and again, comparing that back to the dates of filing for China, February 1st, 2018, there isn't as much of a gap there. So I could see where dates of filing for China EB2 continue to sort of move in these 60-day, 30-day increments. Again, if you go back, it moved 122 days, which is 4 months. So I could see anywhere between that 30-day movement to this 120 plus day movement. So anywhere between 1 to 4 months movement continuing to happen. Again, I think the same thing applies to India EB2. When you look at a January 8th, 2013 dates of filing, and you say 6 to 12 months in advance is where the India EB2 final action dates should read per the Department of State. I think that that definitely gives me some insight that it should continue to move on from here. Hey, Venkata, how are you? Thanks for jumping in. Thank you for your analysis. My PD is February 2015 and EB2 missed by a month last year. Not sure to expect in the next visa bulletins. Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to do some basic math for you, right? And we look at okay, where are we now? December 1st, 2011. Um, and looking at dates of filing as January 8th, 2015. um the thing that I would tell you is that you're still probably looking at that 3,800 day mark, right? So just give me a second. I'll do some quick calculations here for you, which is to say February 1st, 2015 is going to put you, if we're looking at, let's say, 3,800 days, you're still at 2025, right? So if I look at September 1st, 2025, that would be 3,865 days, or 10 years and 7 months. So then kind of my point to you is I still think that that equation, that 3,800 to 4,200 day range right now from your priority date is still accurate on when I think your final action date will be posted as current. Darshan asks, do you think EB2 dates of filing will move to December 2013 and December or January bulletin? Well, if we go back and I'll just pull up the October movement too, right? Because I think that that gives us some insight where we are for the beginning of this fiscal year. So if we look at dates of filing for India EB2, it moved 220 days forward. Okay. And then you look at where we are for November, okay? And that date is 183 days forward. So, when you start to think about that, I mean, that's well north of a year movement that's happened in 2 months. So, what does that mean? That's the trickle down effect of the EB2 spillover, with EB1 being current. Because if you think about spillovers and how they're assigned, they're irrespective of country of birth. They're based simply on priority date. So I think that you're seeing that impact here. Again, I haven't really mapped out my dates and done my analytics on it for the December forecast that I'll put out. But I would say, I mean, just off the top of my head, looking at it, I think you could see another, you know, 4, 5, 6 months of movement for dates of filing for EB2. And I think that that's because if we look ahead, that's still that 6 to 12 months in advance where final action dates going to be. Hey VS, how you doing? High any chance of reaching March 2014, either in EB3 or EB2 in fiscal year 2022 for India? That's an interesting question because we were at March 2014 pretty recently. I believe it was September. Let me pull that up really quickly, and I will confirm that. Um, and then you have the 700 and 17 days backwards, right? So I think that that's where a lot of the confusion. Yeah, so the dates of filing in the September 2021 visa bulletin was March 1st, 2014. So I'm assuming that you began to get documentarily qualified. Um, Meaning providing all of your documents kind of per the request, but waiting on final action to come current. And then we see this pretty dramatic scale back. So the question is there any chance for fiscal year 2022? I think you're going to see a bit of a hold here. What will really give you some insight as to whether or not this is a possibility towards the end of the year is what's going to happen in that May, June, July timeframe, and if we start to see the creep back happen. Right now, off the top of my head, I think you may have a higher probability of the 2014 becoming current in an EB2. But I think that again, that's you're still a year or two away from that when we look at 2013, January 2013 dates of filing for right now. Hopefully I'm assuming you've downgraded, so you're working in parallel here. Sounds like you're kind of in the best of both worlds, and hopefully you can leverage that. And just wanted to wish you good luck here. As I'm sure when you saw that September bulletin dates of filing with a March 2014 and EB3, I'm sure there was some excitement on your end, which was quickly diminished and uh, stamped out for this month's posting. So just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways that you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so through the super chat function in YouTube if you're watching right now via the live stream. If you're watching at a future date, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. Hey Ravi, how you doing? EB3 I-140 was applied on the perm, qualified for EB2. So do we need a new perm if we want to upgrade from EB3 to EB2, or just a new EB2 I-140 would be sufficient without a new perm? I believe as long as you're with the same employer, it should just be the downgrade is what you would need. Um, but in terms of going from EB3 to EB2, there are different requirements that would be put in place from the petitioner. Um, and again, I think you're just going to need the I-140 filing and that approval, and you can do that. I believe they're still accepting premium processing. I know there's a great debate on whether to file that I-140 in premium or not to file it, and what's being rejected or requested for additional evidence. But yeah, as long as you're with the same employer, I think you just need a new I-140. That should be sufficient. Hey Madhu, how are you? General thoughts on legal immigration, especially EB2 or EB3? Yeah, again, I will go back to many of you who have followed this channel for quite some time know that I am a proponent of a merit-based immigration points system. And I'm also a big proponent of first come, first served. So what does that mean for EB2 and EB3? Well, ultimately, I want to hire the best and brightest regardless of the country of birth, and I want to make sure that there is fairness associated with that. Points are allocated appropriately, and that everyone who has an opportunity to come here and wants to be innovative and creative and pursue opportunity here and prepare what I would say is a better and brighter future for all of us here in this country. My thoughts are that it needs to be a points-based system. While I am the H1B guy, that's merely because the H1B is the primary high-skilled employment-based visa that thousands upon thousands of individuals come to the U.S. on. But again, still hopeful. I don't think we'll see any merit-based discussions during the current administration, but maybe potentially at some point in the future, it will gain more traction, kind of along the same lines of hope as there being a third party in our modern day politics. Hey Napur, how you doing? Always appreciate your help. I got your email. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to respond back to you, but would love to answer your question here. So, EB2 India, October, November filing, final action dates came back to back. So, how will file be processed? It's really dependent on what month you filed. Hopefully you were able to get that in October before there was the movement back. Also, do all people get called for interview? I believe so. The interview is, I believe, mandatory, but I could be wrong in that. Hey Ish, how are you? My PD is October 30th, 2015. EB2, my attorney is ready to file downgrade in EB3. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you probably watched my video, downgrade or not to downgrade. Um, Do I think the date of filing chart will come around November 2015 in India EB3? Okay, so here's what I will tell you. I will go back to September and when we saw that March 2014 in the dates of filing, and now we are all the way back to January 2012. Do I think that that's going to happen this year? I don't. Sorry. I wish I did. Um, or EB2 for India October 30th, 2015. Now that's a good question, but I don't think either will be current this year for final action or dates of filing. I could be wrong, but I think you're going to be you're into just based on the way the retrogression happened. I think you're into at this point next year or the year after. My best guess is still I would still say 10 years to the day, right? So what does that mean? That could mean 2, 3, 4 more years for you. It really depends on how the spillovers are processed for EB2 and what that clears up for you if that EB2 movement were to happen. Any idea how long UCS is taking to process perm these days? Yeah, they've been taking forever. I think the biggest thing has been the prevailing wage determinations are taking much longer than they normally did. You look at how the advertising and recruitment is going now. What I would say, what used to take 9 to 12 months to get perm labor filed is now probably closer to 12 to 16 months. And the prevailing wage determination alone is one of the biggest causes of that. But I think the thing that a lot of folks don't realize when they think about green card sponsorship, employment based green card sponsorship, and specifically perm labor certification, the employee has this sense of urgency that is extremely high. You want it done, you want it done now. The petitioner, the employer's sense of urgency is a little bit less than that unless there's a very pressing issue. And so then you add in the attorneys, whether they're internal or external, and how their timelines work. And so generally what I would tell you is that from when someone initiates a perm labor certification to when the perm labor certification is actually filed, that timeline, again, I would say if it's filed anywhere between 12 to even 18 months from when the process is initiated, is still fairly accurate. It used to be closer to 9 to 12 months, but it again that's pushed out at least 3 to 4 months here over the last year and a half. Great question though, Madhu. Anything for EB categories, legal, immigration, and the reconciliation bill? Yeah, I was referring to that earlier, what I call that Plan C, that maybe some of you have seen, but it talks about a spillover and how those will be allocated. And then there's a plan for through 2023 that then abruptly ends. I don't believe that they're intended to be wasted, but it that language that I've seen, it has been pretty vague. That text, at least the proposed legislative text, is a little vague to me and a little confusing. I generally prefer to leave it to the legal experts to break that down, what that looks like, and then kind of form my own opinion. But when I've read that text, it looks like there is some plans for the back and forth between EB and FB, and then that goes through 2023. Hey, Trololo, how you doing? I submitted medicals in September based on RFE when EB3 date was current for priority date of August 2013. So after 2 years, when date is current again, when will I have to give medicals again? Well, the thing is, as long as you submitted while your date was current, it should still be considered as counted against the number. At least that's my understanding. Of course, that's a good opportunity for you to consult with your attorney to see what their thoughts are if they have anything specific around that. But that's my understanding is that um, once you've been counted against that number, you're still counted, even if there is retrogression. Those cases generally are still filed accordingly to the date to which it was submitted, hopefully within the month of when your date was current, whenever that was, October 2013. I'm guessing that was based on a downgrade. Um, but wanted to just mention one more time, got a few more minutes here. If you have any additional questions or comments, would like to thank everyone who's taken the time to jump in and join me. If you're looking for ways you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so just simply by liking this video and subscribing to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance, check out the H1BGuy.com. I post all my articles from all my video posts that I put out all go out on the H1BGuy.com. So if you prefer text format, also, reposting most of the audio that I put out here on this channel on the H1B Guy podcast. Of course, you can support this channel via the the super chat function here currently during the live stream, and if you're watching at a later time, ultimately you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. I really just appreciate any of your support that any of you have offered me and continue to offer me. Just thanks so much. Can't do it without you. Will there be any retrogression for India filing dates for fiscal year 2022? Well, there already was an EB3. Okay, so you're asking for EB2. Uh, that's a good question. I think that if you go back to a lot of the chats with Charlie, there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of sort of misdirection, I believe, that's come from the Department of State as it relates to retrogression and how it typically works. We were warned of retrogression that was possible. You started hearing the conversations if you go back to August, September. Um, I'm really interested next week to see kind of the tone. And, it will have been almost 2 weeks since the bulletin came out for the Chats with Charlie episode 8, which airs on October the 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But do I think that there is going to be retrogression for dates of filing for India EB2? So we're at January 8th, 2014. And if we go back and look at where were we for dates of filing, if we go all the way back to even just last year, right? We talk about, the October 2020 visa bulletin, the November 2020 visa bulletin. We've seen, this really come a long way, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, fearful of retrogression, absolutely, especially when you see 717 days backwards for EB3 for India and both final action and dates of filing. But right now, at this very moment, I don't think that we'll see retrogression in EB2 for dates of filing. I think that it will hold where it's at. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. But right now, at this very moment, if your question is, do I think that there will be retrogression for India dates of filing in EB2 between now and the end of the fiscal year? If it doesn't happen next month, then I don't believe it will happen until, the end of the year. And then that moves it into the July, August timeframe, maybe even September. But I think the biggest thing is getting through December 1st. And if it gets through December, then I'm pretty hopeful that we'll see it maintain or even continue to move forward until the end of the fiscal year. But thanks for the question. Appreciate your support. Thanks, Madhu. Very informative stream and appreciate sharing all the information. My pleasure. I love talking about this stuff. This is my passion. This is what I was put on this planet to talk about and do. I am a staffing expert and work authorization expert. It's a very rare blend. I know we didn't get into a lot of the staffing trend discussions today, but that's because immigration reform and the visa bulletin's been dominating a lot of the news right now as we look at high skilled immigrants and H1B specifically. Of course, you had the Facebook lawsuit that came down today and was a settlement. I'll cover that on Friday in the H1B Guy news for the week ending October 22nd, 2021. But thanks for your support. I can't do it without you, Madhu. Harsh asks, PD is April 2012 and EB2 to EB3 I-140 was approved, but now with November bulletin, it's not current. Is it better to do an EB2 interfile or just wait it out? I would go EB2 route personally. because I think you're right there. Honestly, I again, as I mentioned earlier, Harsha, and you may have missed this, but I think that we're going to see, if you look at December 1st, 2011, final action for October, January 8th, 2013, dates of filing for October 2021. I think if you just take the law of averages, which is to say that anywhere between 30 to 120 days forward movement for December 1st, 2011. So I'll just do some really quick calculation here to give you an idea of what that could look like, because again, you're looking at April, right? So April of 2012 from December 1st, 2011, that puts you at 122 days exactly. So if big if um, final action continues to move in the manner that it has in both October and November's bulletin, you could be looking at that April 1st, 2012 date as early as December. Um, I don't know if I'll be as aggressive and say 122 days with my forecast, but maybe I will, because just based on basic calculations and coincidence, I was talking about 122 days very much earlier, and here it is exactly on the button, that number, Harsha. So maybe, fingers crossed, maybe it is April 1st, 2012 for you and EB2, and you can do the interfile or what the parallel filing as they call it. Great question. Thanks for your support. Absolutely, Trollo. Thank you. Glad I can be of service to you. One of the intentions of this channel was to bring awareness to employment-based benefits. So I cover a lot of different things, not just H1B, but the H1B guy is the moniker. I am an H1B expert as it relates to work authorization, but also all of the many other types of high-skilled, high-tech, specifically IT, STEM-related fields for employment-based work authorization here in the U.S. But I wanted to just say thank you so much to all of you who jumped in. Narashima, Darshan, Suvi, good to see you. Venkata, thank you. VS, Ravi, Madhu, my good friend Napur, thank you. Really appreciate your continued support. Ishtiak, thank you for your questions. And Trololo, Sweet Seller, thank you guys. Harsha, thank you all. Just really appreciate all of your support here today and jumping in on this live stream and supporting the H1B guy. Wanted to remind everyone that today's post is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads and local job postings since 2001. This national job board network provides recruitment websites in 1,024 major U.S. metro areas. Each local job board is its own portal and is a low-cost resource for immigration recruitment ads and local job postings for all industries and professions, with a flat price of $225 per ad or $1,000 per month, regardless of which city you choose. Please tell my friend Richard Almond at RecruiterNetworks.com that the H1B guy sent you. Very glad to have them continue to sponsor the H1B Guy channel. It's almost been a year, and would just like to offer as much opportunity for you guys to support RecruiterNetworks.com if you can. Also, the stream is brought to you by Path to Canada. Path to Canada provides an ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H-1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a plan B, and Path to Canada is your answer. They'll gladly help you navigate the process, and if you're interested in finding out more, please be sure to use the link in the video description below. Of course, I had the chance to sit down with Syndesis. I shared that article multiple times in the YouTube video. If you haven't watched that YouTube video, you can find it on my friend Mark Palavopoulos' YouTube channel, or you can just search the H1B guy on YouTube and it should come up. Would love if you could go like and support that video for me. Look in the next month or so. There's some big things that I'm working on with Syndesis and Path to Canada, and really excited to bring that awareness to you guys about just a great plan B. And then also by PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. If you want to reduce your costs and overhead associated with PERM labor certification recruitment advertising, Let my friend Carl Balsmeyer at perm-ads.com help you. Let him know that the H1B guy sent you. He literally is a one-stop shop. If you're an employer, if you're a staffing firm, if you're an immigration attorney, you're looking to give your clients a reduced cost option, perm-ads.com is a great solution. And they also work very closely with recruiternetworks.com. So again, just wanted to say thank you to all of you who've joined me here this afternoon, made it this far. I really appreciate it. I think I had one question that just came in, and I'll address it because I've already talked about it a good bit. But what are my thoughts on spending bill passing with immigration impacts? As I said earlier at the very beginning of the stream, and you can go back and check that, I don't think it's going to happen. We're at October the 20th now. I think that the pressure will be on to get a budget passed so there isn't a shutdown. And honestly, the immigration, subject is honestly way too combustible and a little bit too toxic right now, especially going into an election year. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. But right now, today, Wednesday, October the 20th, 2021, I'm just not as hopeful as I was a couple of months ago that it's going to be included in the infrastructure budget reconciliation, build back better, whatever you want to call it. I just don't see it. So again, thanks for that last minute question. Really appreciate it. Just wanted to ask everyone again one last time, if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live, like I did here today at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, October the 20th, 2021. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. I cannot do this without you. I continue to be humbled and amazed by your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm Robert. I'm the H1B guy, your global source for all things H1B.